Alpine environments are special places. They're home to some unique and sometimes rare plants and animals. But they're also a place that thousands of visitors come to every year, for skiing in winter or for camping in summer. We're going to be asking locals and experts how the small choices we make with regards to our food and waste can have big impacts to this unique alpine ecosystem. The first thing I want to do is look at why alpine environments are different and what makes them special. So now we're up on the beautiful Falls Creek, and I'm joined by Naomi from Falls Creek Resort Management. So Naomi, where have you brought me?
Up to one of our alpine bog systems at the top part of Falls Creek Resort.
Yeah, wow. And what's so special about alpine bogs?
So alpine bogs are essentially a waterlogged area, and they are really important habitat for a number of threatened species we have in the resort, including the broadtooth rat, the alpine water skink, the alpine bog skink, and the alpine stonefly, which is an invertebrate that's threatened up here.
What are the main threats for these type of ecosystems, the alpine bog?
So threats to alpine bogs and peatlands include people, for one, vehicles, weed spread, non-native animals like deer and horses.
Yep. And have you ever seen litter in, like, where we're standing? I can't really see many man-made things. There doesn't seem to be any bins either. But have you ever seen litter up here?
Litter can occur anywhere in this landscape up here. Yep. It's by nature, because it's so windy. At times it can catch people unawares, and things can blow out of their pockets when they're skiing or walking and or mountain biking, and can catch on the wind and take off. And yes, they can easily end up in these systems. And I think sometimes it can just be coming out of pockets that people are unaware of, and we encourage people to carry their rubbish with them until they can get to a bin. Yep. And even better, if they've got something organic, take it to an organics bin, because that then reduces it from going to landfill too. Yeah. So these alpine bogs and peatlands are situated at the top of the catchment, and so that means that the water flows into creeks and rivers, which would carry anything with it downstream. So it's really important that we keep these areas clean.
We were then off to see George from Mount Hotham to see another unique alpine environment that has a special local species with an interesting sleeping habit.
George, why have you brought us here?
Tom, I brought you down here to show you some rocks.
Yep, okay. What's so special about these rocks?
Well, these rocks are special because of a certain little animal that likes to live in amongst them, the mountain pygmy possum. So, the mountain pygmy possum is a very rare animal in Australia. It lives only in the alpine areas under the snowpack.
Wow.
Likes to go to sleep for 7 months of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. But when it does come out and wake up and run around, it likes to forage in amongst the little gaps that you can see in the rocks. So that's where it makes its home.
So this is its unique habitat. So George, is there a reason these rocks are right next to the road if they're for the mountain pygmy possum?
Yes, because the mountain pygmy possums some of the girls like to live above the road, and the boys like to live at the bottom on the downslope of the road. So what we needed to do was to create a link in the rock between there so that the animals could move through.
And George, are they using the tunnel?
They are using the tunnel. So as part of the work that we've done since the tunnel was built, we each spring come along and do trapping, and we catch the animals, and they have microchips in them. So what we found with the chip readers is in the spring, once the weather warms up a little bit, they wake up, and they come out and they move through the tunnel, and we usually see that movement start to slow down in about autumn.
Okay. And what do they eat?
So one of their key food sources is the bogong moth, but what's been happening is that we're seeing less and less bogong moths in the Alps in the summertime, and that's really starting to impact on how the possum potentially can survive.
It was time to go down the mountain to investigate some of the issues that Naomi and George had mentioned. We met up with Joe, a local wildlife carer, to see firsthand how animals get impacted by food waste and litter in alpine environments. So, Joe, what type of animal do you usually get?
Oh, I usually just do birds, like I don't do mammals, and I do lizards too.
And do you get animals that come from the alpine areas?
Oh yes, yeah,
Yep.
I get a fair few. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Now this raven, he came in and he had an infection. He was found on the ground with an infection,
Yep.
and it's something he's eaten. Possibly some human food that he's picked up and not agreed to with him.
Yep.
So he's on antibiotics.
So ravens are those classic birds that hang around bins
Yeah,
and
they
sort of scavenge
scavengers,
and
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So what sort of foods can harm them? What sort of foods can give them an infection or a tummy ache like this guy?
Well, I know cheeses, once it goes mouldy around the edges, that
Yep.
can do a lot of damage to them.
Yep. So this guy's got a infection in his tummy. We don't know exactly what caused it, but it
No.
could have been food scraps and
Yeah,
old
yeah,
human
yep.
food. And do you ever get birds that have not just the food scraps, but do you ever get birds that actually have the weight, like litter, like anything plastic or anything?
Yes. Bowerbirds with rings around their head.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, the blue, especially the blue rings.
Yep.
I've had other birds with rings strapped around their beak and neck too, so
Yeah,
they
right.
can't eat. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And Joe, you said there was a booble cow that had come from Falls Creek.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was. He was found
Tell
on
us
the
about him.
ground in a car park, in a hotel car park. He had a bug of some sort. He was not very well. He was. When they're really quiet, there's something wrong.
Could it affect an owl like this if they ate an animal that was sick already?
Yeah,
that had been
it
eating
could.
something?
Okay.
If a mouse had been eating, into human food or into poison or something like that, it could get eventually into the owl's body.
Yep. Owls seem to store any poison in their fat tissue, and then when they get low, it affects them. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
right. So it might not
stress
affect them
levels.
straight away.
No.
Yep.
No.
Oh,
no.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that human foods like cheese could have such a devastating effect on animals like birds? In the next episode, I hear from the people who live and work on the mountain about what they do to help keep these threats at bay and protect their local ecosystems. First, I visit the kids at Falls Creek Primary School to get some local knowledge about how they go about keeping their home beautiful. Well, what's so special about these green bins? Then I visit Pricey to see in action how waste gets dealt with on the mountain. Right, so Pricey, where does our recycling go once it comes to you?